I have old checks and undeposited funds. All right, undeposited funds is lingo. It's from the QuickBooks world, so we know that we're working in QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online here. I have old checks and undeposited funds. What am I supposed to do with this list? Okay, got that. David, so glad you could join me today. Welcome to the show. The same last name is not a coincidence. David is my husband. I'm the CEO of Tier 1 Services. I'm looking forward to your questions or feedback. I know that you do some networking with others. Questions come your way, and of course, as a CEO of an organization, you have questions yourself, as well as answers. So this question, what am I supposed to do with this list of old checks and undeposited funds? So first, if you have a list of checks and undeposited funds, that means either the checks were received and logged and then lost, or the checks were received and logged and then given back to the customer for some reason, and the books weren't updated. They were received and logged, and they're still sitting in somebody's pocket. Oops, they're still they're on somebody's desk. They're in a pile of papers. They never made it to the bank. They got put in the safe, and then somebody forgot to open the safe and take it to the bank. The checks were stolen. The checks actually weren't checks at all, but they were really received in cash. Or it was actually a credit card payment that was taken, but somebody put that it was a check, and then when somebody went to record the deposit of the credit card, they said, hey, there's no credit card deposit in here. I think I'll record it again. So now we have a duplicate. In other words, that check never existed because it was a credit card charge that was recorded separately. Those are some common scenarios. And yes, I include theft in the bullet point list here of common scenarios because theft, especially in smaller businesses, is more common than you think. If you mention the topic of theft, embezzlement, fraud in any small business or nonprofit forum, you are gonna get war stories, people. You are gonna get war stories because it happens. You're never gonna get like the people who perpetrated to be like, yeah, I know I did this last week. But you're gonna get people who say this happened to my organization once because the same person was writing checks as was reconciling the books. No, don't do that. So if you might hear in the Enrons of the world, right? They get the big point font headlines above the fold in the papers or above the scroll in the online papers. Those are the ones you hear about. But in most larger companies, that's not where it's occurring. Most fraud happens, most theft happens in the smaller companies because smaller companies have fewer internal controls. They have fewer resources to prevent and detect theft and embezzlement. So that's unfortunately why theft made it to the short list of Jamie's list of what could be the common reasons behind what you have in undeposited funds. So next, what to do about it? Find out what the scenario is. Hey, does anybody have this check? Let me look in the safe. Let me do a find in my QuickBooks file to see if there's a duplicate payment, in which case I can just delete this. If you find the check, take that sucker to the bank, get it in the bank account, and then record that deposit in your QuickBooks records as well. If it was stolen, maybe you can put a stop payment on it if it hasn't ever cleared. You can get in contact with your customer and say, hey, we have on record that you paid this check to us, but for some reason we're not in possession of it. Can you show us the back of the canceled check? Because if that's not an authorized signature from my company, we might have an issue for the authorities, or for a forensic accountant, or for an attorney, or for a private investigator. So those are some sample actions that you might take. Hopefully, it got locked in the safe, you open it up and you take it to the bank. That's best case scenario, right? More money.